My name is Dale Bondanza. I've spent almost 30 years in the technology industry in a variety of verticals. My experiences include pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, security, education, insurance, financials. Uh, this is the third video in a series of videos I'm publishing on YouTube relative to IT. I've previously spoken on my personal core philosophy, which is PPT plus C, which is people, process, and technology. In that order, don't get it wrong. I also had a video on branding for IT leaders. And today is a video that is on what I call virtual CIO services. It's a service offering that I offer through my consulting company, DAB Enterprises. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But I wanted to go through a presentation today with you. It shouldn't be a long one, but wanted to share with you some of these services that you may consider for your organization or enterprise, whether it's through my organization or through another. But it's a topic that has become of more interest, especially as we have exited the pandemic. Because resources are harder to garner these days, especially at an executive level as our workforce ages. And we have an interesting blend of almost 5 generations in the workforce today. So let me talk a little bit more about our presentation. Let me first share my screen with you. Let me share. Here we go. Very good. So today, what I want to talk about is vCIO. So we're going to go through the definitions of what that means. We're going to talk about the services that you can encounter and some use cases. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about my company. My company is DAB Enterprises, LLC. DABEL is the short name. It is an information technology systems and services consulting organization that's dedicated to improving your organization, including your approach to people, process, and technology. In that order, don't get it wrong. I am the founder, chief information officer, and principal consultant. And yes, I have all the wonderful initials after my name, but that is also a hot link, which will be linked in the video below. Let's talk a little bit about some of the definitions that surround a virtual chief information officer. I always like this jargon because when I'm speaking with people in a variety of industries, you know, I list it as what I sometimes call one of my superpowers, which is that I can speak multiple languages. And when I say multiple languages, that is to say, I speak legal, I speak procurement, I speak human resources, I speak marketing, and most of all, I speak technology. And what's important is that I can translate in between all those different languages, like marketing, like procurement, into technology and back and forth. And jargon is just that. It's the technical terminology or characteristic that is associated with a particular specialty, be it technology or law or marketing. So let's talk a little bit more about the definitions that surround vCIO. So just making sure we're on the same page. So there's 7 key phrases on the left and their translations are on the right. I'll speak at a high level about them. Again, there's also hot links provided in the presentation that I'll include in the YouTube comments below. So what is a vCIO? V stands for virtual. So that is to say, it's a person who serves your organization as your de facto head of technology or some other senior technology leader in your organization. CIO technically stands for Chief Information Officer. However, many organizations also have what they refer to as a Chief Technology Officer. Sometimes it is a transformation or a project officer, but it's typically the person who is responsible for leading your technology organization. Virtual, again, seems obvious, especially in the post-pandemic world, but what virtual really means is someone who is not an actual employee of the organization. They're typically a temporary resource. Some people call them contractors, some people call them consultants, but the fact is they're not an actual employee of the organization. And the only difference between the word virtual and fractional, because sometimes these words get used interchangeably. People talk about vCIO or fractional CIOs or fractional CFOs, et cetera. Again, they're just that. They're non-part-time, I'm sorry, they're non-full-time, they're non-employees of your organization. And whether it's virtual or fractional, it just typically indicates a time frame. We use a lot of acronyms in technology, and KTLO or BAU is one of the normal ones. We talk about keeping the lights on or business as usual. More on that in a little bit, but I just wanted to throw those terms out there because sometimes I use them and I forget that not everybody knows what all of our acronyms mean. Business applications. So within your organization, you're typically using some type of software, some type of application that runs your business. Even if you're in the smallest organization of a mom and pop store, you have some type, typically, of even a point of sale terminal. So there's always some type of software running in your organization, no matter the size. I had a previous boss that used to tell me that there's two types of companies: technology companies and companies that don't know they're technology companies, because everyone uses technology in some form or fashion. We're going to talk about services. Services is kind of a generic word that we use to say it's offerings from either a DABEL, again, my consulting company, or other businesses that can help you succeed on your mission. And hopefully your mission is to get to the next tier of success despite the forces set against you in today's world. We're going to talk about use cases. And again, that's just one of those technical terms that's specific, that really refers to specific examples of, in this case, the services that we're talking about offering. So, and remember, at the end of the day, the goal of these services is to help your organization meet its key performance indicators or its objectives and key results. So let's talk about the service offerings that a vCIO may offer your organization or that you may choose to engage with. Some of the service offerings, they're broken up really into kind of two columns. On the left, I talk about what are organizational maturity assessments. Oftentimes people refer to this as what level am I at a CMMI, and another one of those acronyms, Capability Management Maturity Index. CMMI was a term that's been around for a long time. It defines an organization, an organization's level of process or maturity in a specific area. In this particular case, we're talking about either technology or your portfolio or project or program management office. We're talking about your core infrastructure, or we may even be talking about your overall enterprise and its maturity. We talk about strategy. That's another one of the services that we offer. Why that's an offering is because oftentimes organizations will have a business strategy, but they won't have necessarily converted that into a technology strategy and how that technology strategy aligns to the business. We talk about organizational design and alignment. What that really means is, again, is your organization positioned to succeed in a modern technology environment? Staffing assistance. One of the largest challenges we've had coming out of the pandemic was filling of positions. You may have heard terms like the Great Resignation. You may have heard things like quiet quitting. These are all real issues that we're dealing with in organizations today, and they are particularly relevant in the technology world. So staffing assistance is something that our organization can help you with as well as understanding all the options that come with staffing. We're going to talk about, I mentioned business applications earlier. The reason that this is listed as a service offering is many people have so many applications or so much software in their organization. Sometimes they're using it to the best of their abilities. Sometimes they're not. This is a service where my organization offers to come in and analyze the utilization of your current applications or determine what proper applications you should be using for specific purposes. We will also do an architecture or an infrastructure assessment of your organization. So that is, we want to make sure that you're correctly aligned, whether your applications or whether your hardware or your infrastructure is actually on site at your organization, whether it's on premise, whether you have your own data center where you store all of your hardware, your software, and your data, whether it's something that's in the cloud, and we actually help you define what that means to be in the cloud or on the edge or a hybrid environment, all those very technology sounding words that are oftentimes scary to those that are not in the technology field. You know, one of the things that I typically say, especially when it comes to architecture and infrastructure, is technology equals change, which equals growth, but that also equals scary. Let our organization help take the scariness out of the technology, the change, and the growth. We talk about support services. Again, this just ensures alignment of your non-technology services, whether they be financial, legal, procurement, cybersecurity, et cetera. Governance, so the definition of governance is either project, program, portfolio, enterprise, transformation. Those are typical governance. We talk about data governance, we talk about process governance. All of those types of governance in your organization, again, be it related to technology, are things that we can help with. We talk about supplier and vendor management. This is a key area in technology, especially, again, as we're in an era where so many things are not within our control as an enterprise or as an organization. We're using multiple vendors, we're using multiple partners to accomplish the goals. And oftentimes the question is, who's juggling all those balls? Who's spinning all those plates? Who's keeping track, and who's herding all those cats? Again, that's something our organization can help you out with. We also talk about budget review and rationalization. Oftentimes folks don't understand how much money they're actually spending on technology, or sometimes they do, and that's what makes them nervous as well. So that's something we can also help with. We'll look at and review the rationalization of the spend across your organization on technology, including some benchmarking services. So after services, we're going to talk about some of the use cases. So what are use cases of these services that I'm talking about offering? I understand the services that you just spoke of, Dale, but how would I use them in my organization? Okay, so let's talk more about how you would use some of these services. Well, I mentioned another one of those acronyms earlier, CMMI. Do you know what level you are today? Do you know where you stand related to those 5 target levels? Do you even know what those 5 target levels are? Where do you stand today, and where should you be, or where would you like to be over time? We talk another use case that utilizes those services. We talk about aligning your business and your technology strategies. Again, oftentimes we find that businesses have a mission or a vision or principles that are defined at the corporate level or on the business side, but oftentimes those things aren't necessarily used or recognized by other facets of the organization. So from a technology perspective, we want to make sure that our technology strategy is aligned to accomplish our overall business strategy. So as it says there, that talks about using best practices within technology to approach that. We talk about building a roadmap, sometimes referred to as a runway, to gradually align your technology to your budget, to your organization, so that it doesn't break your budget. Other services, again, that we used earlier, we talk about, well, I need to govern my use because I'm in a regulated industry, so things like the FDA may apply to my environment. Things like SOX, if I'm a public company, may apply to my organization. And even if you're not a public company, there are other key performance indicators that may apply to your organization, whether it be industry regulated or government regulated. So those things should be monitored and can be through a governance service model. We talked about cost analysis. We'll look at your organization, we'll look at the department, we'll look at individual assets and how they're utilized, how much you're spending on them, and again, provide you with that cost analysis of how much you're spending and is it the best value that you're getting for the dollar. We talked about application analysis and evaluation. A lot of times, a common theme in IT is people have applications or they have software, but they're literally only using 10 or 20% of that software. Is it worth using it if you're only using 10 to 20% of it? Are there better choices? Should you be using the other 80% of the application that you're not using? Those are things that we can discuss. Those are organizational uses. On the other side, we talk about individuals or people uses of these services that we offer. Part of a virtual CIO or virtual leader in your organization is oftentimes coaching, mentoring, developing, being a sounding board for other executives in your organization. Maybe you just need a substitute leader. You may have heard a lot of terms in the technology industry, such as software as a service, which is referred to as SaaS, or infrastructure as a service, which is IaaS, platform as a service, PaaS. This comes under the title of leadership as a service, or LaaS. So we can assist your current organization with keeping the lights on or business as usual, while your primary leader handles maybe a special project. So I have cloning there in parentheses, and that's kind of exactly what this is. Oftentimes leaders say, man, if only I had a clone of myself, I could do so much more in this organization. Let DAB Enterprises be your clone. We'll look at, again, your supplier and vendor management. We'll make sure that your agreements that you have in place are sound and intact and that your SLAs are being met. We'll do an independent team evaluation if that's something that you need, because maybe you have a lot of folks on your team that, again, you don't necessarily have someone that's an expert in technology that can tell you whether or not the individuals on your team are actually the right individuals. So do you have the right players in the right seats on the bus? We can assist. Maybe you're also at a point in time when you feel that you're over-resourced. Maybe you need to downsize or right-size. Through that independent team evaluation, we can come in and help you look at your organization objectively, and be that sounding board for other executives in the organization to determine whether or not your investment in your people has been done correctly. So it also allows you as an organization, as potentially a CEO or a founder or a COO that's listening to this presentation, it allows that external entity to sometimes be the quote unquote bad cop. So some of the deliverables that you'll get from these services or from these use cases, we talk about maturity assessment. You'll get a formal maturity assessment of where your organization is today and the roadmap to get you to where you want to be. We'll talk about it from a technology roadmap perspective. Maybe you need a 1, a 3, or a 5-year plan. We'll talk about your key performance indicators and creating an executive dashboard so that you can keep an eye and constantly monitor these things as that roadmap develops over time. We'll look at and evaluate your vendors that you're using today. Again, independently and objectively. Oftentimes vendors get put in place because they're friends of the family or they're somebody that somebody knew once upon a time, but that was a long time ago. And sometimes you just need someone to come in and refresh a look at who you're partnering with to make sure that everything is not just above board, but that you have the proper documentation in place from a legal contractual perspective, that you have proper service level agreements or SLAs in place, and that you have the support for the organization that you need. And again, we also would offer a deliverable of an organizational restructuring or a redesign that would allow you to kind of move into the 21st century. We still often find, even though we're here in the 2020s, that folks are not aligned to 21st century technology. All of this can be handled at a variety of tiers. We talk about a tiered cost model and how it's approached. So the usual comment is, okay, I understand the services, I understand the deliverables, I understand the use cases. So how much does this all cost, Dale? Well, there's several tiers that you can look at. You can look at either a bronze, a silver, or a gold tier. They mean different amounts of time per month. They may include different levels of services. We talk about having 1 or 2 or 3 mentees. So that is to say that if you need our services to mentor an individual in your organization, maybe you have someone who is serving as your de facto leader of IT today, but you need that individual to grow into a more senior or a more executive role because you believe that technology will help your organization get to that next level. Again, we can help mentor those individuals. We can assist with research and best practices. We can assist with thought leader sessions. So we have access to people who are experts in the industry, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's a specific enterprise resource planning tool that you need. ERP is oftentimes how organizations run their entire back office. So everything from procurement of raw materials through to the final distribution to the customer. We have thought leaders in areas of enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, and several other areas that we can assist with. We also have quarterly peer events. So if you have times when your organization, be it IT or other leaders, need to get together and just talk amongst themselves at peer events, this is something, these are other additional services that we offer. In our higher plans, like our silver and our gold plan, we also offer other customized thought leader sessions. We can also do a test and learn execution from an initial breakthrough session. So normally when we start an engagement, we go through with several of the executives in the organization to determine what are their pain points, what are things that are keeping them up at night. So from those breakthrough sessions, we'll do a deep dive on one of those areas so that we can focus on improving that area of challenge within your organization. So that's what I have for you today. Those are the high-level services associated with a virtual or fractional executive leader in your organization. I want to thank you for your time today. Here's my contact information. I included my cell as well as my company's email. Again, my name is Dale Bondanza, and I would like to thank you all for listening to my video today. And if you have any additional needs, please feel free to reach out to me via email, cell, or LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and have a great day.